So welcome to the big Premiership show, round 17, as we edge towards the Super Saturday, the round 18 where everyone plays each other at the same time. So let's talk about some of the crucial games in this round, who needs what to get in those playoff spots. And also I'm going to have a deep dive into the last game actually with Harlequins and Chiefs. None of them are going to get into the playoffs. Harlequins maybe technically could, but they're not going to because they're in very similar positions where they're not playing very well and they're searching for something. So I'm going to look at that in that context. The Sharks-Bears game, the Saints-Saracens game and Bath-Leicester I'm going to look at in detail as what they need to get qualified for those playoffs. Right, the first game that I had a big look at was Sale 41, Bristol 27. And goodness me, George Ford is on fire at the moment. He uses all those strengths around him so effectively, and a big bonus point win, exactly what they needed. Bristol, they're still a good side, but they're just stumbling a little bit towards the end of the Premiership. Not their best performances that we saw kind of midway through the Premiership. Still full of tries, still very dangerous, and they could get that qualifying position because they are sat in fourth anyway. So George Ford, what does he do so well? Well, it's the timing of the pass, playing in the face, what he's done so well all his career. He's just doing as well as he's ever done it. And he just changes his angle to half-commit players who really don't want to fixate on him. They want to drift and they just can't. And he's so composed playing that flat. He is the perfect playmaker. He's going to be key for England in their summer tour of Argentina, and maybe he will get a Lions call. And Bristol were trying to blitz in defence, but in small groups, and it gives Ford a decent picture to try and work the ball around, and it kind of plays into his hands a little bit. 20-odd minutes in, it's been probing from Sale, and Bristol are kind of holding firm for a bit, but then they crack eventually, and it is a cracker, side to side, for a try for the number 8 Dupree. They had all three Dupree brothers playing. A pocket for Jaw was looking good. Rob Dupree is there as a second playmaker, and that makes the try out wide on the right in the end for Dupree. So it's a really good opening try. Bristol do get one back. Harry Randall kind of doing it all himself. He's amazing at dummying and sniping. Great pace, of course, but Sale are in full control, and just before half-time, another perfect move all the way up the pitch. Dupree brothers again involved. A pocket for Jaw again involved. Johnny Hill is playing the best rugby of his life, actually. Should he go on tour for England? That's an interesting one. And Ben Curry is the ideal classic link 7, making the final pass. And Ford's obviously involved multiple times, but it's absolutely brilliant as it looks like they're over. They're held up, but they do score straight from the dropout. McElroy crashing over. So a dominant first half without getting massive points ahead. So it's 20 points to 5. The second half is better for Bristol. They score good tries, but really there's nothing really happening there to get them into the win. It turns into a really good game, to be fair. And for Sale, a great warm-up. If they get into those playoffs, they're looking pretty good. I think Cowan Dickey should be okay for the playoffs as well. Massey White, the 12, is coming into his own in the last few games. Very powerful. Now, when he was with the under-20s, I said he was mistake-prone, and that seems to be out of him. He has some footwork as well, so he's looking the real deal, and the anchor in midfield for Ford to play around. So it's just looking a really nicely balanced side. Anyway, for these two sides, the final game is Sale away to Exeter. It's a great last game, to be fair. Exeter were looking a little better this round. We'll come to that, but we've got to assume that I think Sale would win this one. Assume Gloucester win, because they have to. Then they could lose with 2 bonus points as a minimum, but if they win, then it looks like Sale are absolutely fine. For Bristol, it's a similar scenario. They're at home to Harlequins, another decent final game, to be fair. They're currently 2 points ahead of Gloucester, so any sort of win, and they will make the semis. And again, technically a home semi is possible for Bristol and Sale, if a little unlikely maybe. But yeah, they're looking pretty decent. Then we have the craziest game of the round. Northampton 28, Saracens 24. Goodness me, Saracens should have won this game. 2 very different goals for these sides, but it worked together as Northampton are they're warming up for the Champions Cup final. Saracens, of course, going for the Premiership playoffs. And Sarries had a really good first half, and then Saints came back into it. And I'm absolutely sure after the game it would be like an absolute funeral in that Sarries changing room, because they knew they had that game and they let it slip. I mean, on paper, the final game for Saracens looks really hard against the strongest team, Bath, but I don't know what sort of team Bath will play in that final round. So even though it's out of Sarries' hands, they could win and they could still make it. But this was the game they needed to make the move. And they clearly had a game plan against Northampton, going to smash them in the tackle, big carrying, and it seemed to work. They were manhandling Pollock, they were rushing Finn Smith. It was definitely working there until Finn Smith makes an amazing duff grabber for Kemeny. He is absolutely amazing at the moment. Kemeny, he's a key guy in the Champions Cup, so kind of against the pressure, they do get a try, but the venom that Saracens had in that first half was impressive. Tom Willis' try was a big carry return, started by Willis himself. I mean, he is a bulldozer option for England, alongside Barbary, I guess, and the rest of the players were moving the ball nicely. Daly looking sharp, and he was looking pretty good. Sarries are swarming in defence. Atoshi gets a nice steal straight after that try, and they're physically on top. Is exactly how they wanted to play to get into those playoff spots. And just after half-time, they're flying, to be honest. Their flowing set-piece attack is brilliant. Tobias Elliott wraps around from the blind wing, and that's what's needed to get the space for Shagan to fly over in the corner. And then when Alex Coles drops the ball over the line for what's a certain try, it really looks like Sarri's day. And 20 minutes to go, Northampton take Finn Smith off because they want to keep him okay for the Champions Cup final. We think that's probably it, but then they step on the accelerator. Hutchinson goes to 10 and does great. Mitchell steps up the pace. Mitchell plays the ball quickly, gets Coles over the gain line, who had a really good game. He did get a knock, so I hope he's okay for the Champions Cup. And then we get a try for Tarek Kafur, 1 of 2 for him. He really came on with a bang. I mean, that front row came on for Saints, did really well. And then Sarries go into panic mode as a Maul flies towards the line, and that's a penalty try for pulling down, yellow card. And then on 80 minutes, Haffer flies over again, and it was Dingwall's offload actually that made it. So to be fair to Dingwall, Hutchinson really good with a break before that as well. And it's just fantastic stuff. And Haffer goes over, and they get that win. It's just a crazy end disaster for Sarries. And they're going to have to go away to Bath and win next week, like I said, but that might not be enough. So a few injury worries for Saints, I guess, for the Champions Cup final. I think Ram got a knock as well as Coles, but hopefully they're going to be well set up now with that second half, that win at the end there, to go into the Champions Cup. But it's a good lesson as well that they're going to have to start a lot better than they did. For Sarries, I think this could really cost them. Then we have the clash of the top of the table. It's Bath versus Leicester. On the scoreboard, a comfortable win for Bath, but the first half was incredibly close, and Leicester were in this game for a while, and then Bath pull away. They could meet again in the Premiership final, and this is definitely, a big coup for Bath getting that win for sure. Now, Leicester didn't get any bonus points from this loss, so mathematically they could drop out of the playoffs completely, but I think they'll be fine. They've got a final home game to Newcastle, which is as good as it can get, so I'm pretty sure they're going to win and get that home semi anyway. In the game, you've got to say Ben Spencer was brilliant again, kicking for length, and he made the opening break for his try, showing he's still got the pace. Is he the most unlucky 9 in England? Hopefully he'll go on that summer tour and have a great tour. Of course, age-wise, he's not really going to be going towards the World Cup, but I do hope he does tour and gets, the start. He looked better than his opposite man, JVP, who's another guy who's probably likely to tour. Donohue's another guy to talk about, that 10/15, playing 15 today. He's got a pace, he's got a kicking game. We're a bit short in that area. I think he's going to tour. And the final shout for the summer tour is maybe Tom Dunn. Yes, he's a bit older, but he's playing the best rugby he's ever played, and he's playing for the best team in the Premiership. Great in the line-out, great in the scrum, scoring tries. Why not? Maybe I should have talked about him before. JVP, we mentioned, did make a great crossfield kick for Woodward's first try, which was nice. Kept them in the game, but they just couldn't keep it going. Summer Bolter, maybe Ilioni actually, the flanker for Leicester, but Bath just too many ball carriers. Finn Russell playing nice and flat, really in the face, and Leicester's endeavour was definitely there, but they just don't have the quality compared to Bath, who have too much power, too much speed, half breaks, offloads from the tackle. They are simply looking the best team in the Premiership, but that doesn't, of course, mean you win the final, but they are the best around. Then a slightly different take on Harlequins versus Exeter. It finished a slight win for Harlequins at home. Danny Care's last game, so that's great, but they didn't look that good, to be honest. They dominated the first half. 2 nice tries in the first 20, so it's looking good to start with. One classic wide-to-wide play. You've got the wingers Isgro and Murley. They were looking really good once again. They've been great all season, to be honest. Murley's back to his best after coming back from injury. Maybe he'll have another chance with England. Now, he scores one nicely out wide. Porter snipes really nicely off a maul, and it's looking good. But then their momentum stutters, and to be fair, it's one good attack from Exeter, one nice try. Josh Hodd has got loads of pace, and he makes the break for Big Tuima to finish. And then it's a maul and they score, and they actually go to 14-12 on the half hour, so still in the game even though they've hardly had any possession. Isgrow again winning the ball back amazingly. He's a master of that, but the Quins' passing is actually just a bit loose as it was all game. And this hack through, Paul Bramban I think would have scored, but the ball went dead. So just shows that Quins are wasteful when they have possession sometimes. They're just forcing that pass, and that's what they do. They go through stacks of phases, but they just are so desperate to score that they just try something a bit silly, and they're not making those big busts through the gain line. The forwards aren't there, basically, to do that. And Exeter's defence has improved. They've changed all their coaches, of course, so you hope it would. There weren't those big gaps that there had been previously. So 14-12 at half-time is a decent result, to be honest, for them. Now, the second half starts, and it looks like Harlequins are going to take control again with a brilliant break from Will Porter, but he can't find his support, and it gets turned over. It's kind of classic Quins, really. And Exeter rush back up the field, and the big man Rusi Tuima showing pace I didn't actually know he had. Dummies and accelerates clear of Lamasatelli, who has been a bit of a liability, dare I say, coming to Quins defensively this season. Now, it was just so stark in this game that Quins do not have that forward power and acceleration that other teams have, and their best gainline carrier was the young inside centre Ben Waghorn, who's making a great chance to go on the England Summer Tour, actually. Exeter, they're not flowing either, but their phases are better. They're getting a little bit more dense in attack, but also giving a few hospital passes. David Jenkins gives one really badly to Slade, but then Jenkins makes up for it a couple of times, diving on a loose ball a metre out, and then he makes an amazing turnover a few minutes later as Quins just can't get those scores. Jenkins, he is a good captain. He really epitomises the effort in this team, even when they're at their lowest. He was a standout player, as I mentioned last time when they changed all those coaches. But yeah, it's just getting too desperate for Quins. Another decent attack on 57 minutes, but it's sheer panic, and this is a classic Marcus Smith, the bad and the good. He looks at the crossfield kick. You can see it's not on, so he hesitates. Then he looks again and just gives it, and it's an easy turnover for Exeter. But then the amazing, there's nothing on at all. He's standing still. The Exeter forwards are lining him up, and he dances around four of them in a phone booth. I think it's Tuima, the last one, that he goes round really badly for Tuima, and it's just a try from nothing, and that is Marcus Smith, and that's why he's going on the Lions tour, because he's the best running 10 around, but he's still not quite got those decisions that, say, a Finn Smith has. So just an interesting microcosm of his game there. 21-19, Quins take the lead. But then again, a couple of minutes later, it's just classic Quins. They win the line out, but they just slap the ball around a few times instead of someone falling on it and slowing it down. They just want to slap it on. And Exeter get the turnover, and they get a penalty, and they kick ahead. Good kick from Slade, 21-22. It must be so frustrating watching Quins, and they've got to improve this. They can't just slap the ball around and expect to make playoffs. Danny Kerr comes on, and only a few points down. It seems perfectly set up to get the win with him on the pitch, and that's what happens as Marcus Smith makes a better tactical kick. Deep, trapping Hodge. They get the penalty, take the lead, 24-22. But Exeter, they finish fairly strongly with good attacking phases. The forwards are denting the gain line, but there aren't any massive gaps in decent Quins defence, to be fair to them. A little bit more time for some hospital passing. Green puts one to Murley's ankles, who gets clobbered, but no, Exeter just can't break through, to be honest, and I think it's Nick David who gets a bit of a 50-50 call for probably the match-winning turnover as Exeter push for the line. Just time for one more attack as Caden Murley embarrasses Josh Hodge, actually handing him off and skinning him for pace, breaking 60 metres, penalty in front. They go for the bonus point, try 5 metres out, 14 men. They should do it, really, but again, just going wide a bit too obviously. Paul Brambampo very quick on the drift as he was all game, and they see the game out, and it is a close win for Harlequins. So yeah, win for Harlequins, but they don't really make any steps forward. They've got to get some more powerful forwards. They've got to get over the gain line. They can't just slap it about and expect them to be better than everyone, because they're a good team, but they're not that good. For Exeter, they're probably going to be more happy with that because the attack was better, the defence was pretty joined up, so they'll take something from the game, although obviously they're not going to be pushing for any playoff places, but they're playing for next season. So here's the table. Bath are going to get that home semi, probably as will Leicester, as they've got Newcastle in the final game. Sharks, Bristol, Gloucester, Saracens. I think it will stay the same. I did my prediction last week. I think it will still be Sharks and Bristol unless something happens. Gloucester and Saracens have to win, to put pressure on, but maybe Saracens have blown it and Gloucester just aren't quite good enough to get there. So that's how it's looking. Let me know what you thought of round 17 and also how you thought that Exeter and Harlequins are shaping up as they go towards next season. Do subscribe if you haven't already. That would be amazing, and I'll catch you next time.